35 drivers. 6 weeks. If you want to make it to the Supercup, you have to survive this gauntlet. This is the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. We're heading into round number 3 here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. I'm certainly very excited to get ourselves going here at this very famous Austrian track in the Styrian Mountains. It's so picturesque there, Joshua. It's a fantastic place to race, not just in the real world, but in the sim racing world as well. And, well, we're getting towards the halfway point of the championship now.
Yeah, this race will put us over halfway, and what a place to do it in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, one of the most famous tracks when it comes to Formula One, and this is really one of the last tracks that a lot of these drivers are going to be really used to racing on. We're going to go into the last half of this season, 3 very different, unique courses that is going to just change the dynamic of this points championship, and you got to make sure that you are above that cut line when it comes to the Contender Series if you want a spot in the Super Cup next year.
Yeah, absolutely. The top 15 drivers from this particular series will get themselves their ticket booked into the next season of the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup, the top level of road racing here on iRacing, and a very, very big prize pool of $200,000 to boot as well. Let's take a look at where we're racing, though, because we are heading here to the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, and, well, a very, very short circuit. Indeed, very few corners, 10 corners to be exact, and a very fast average lap time as well. You get that big slipstream on the way down in towards turn number 1, turn number 3, and of course turn number 4, which will be your main focuses of overtaking here today, Josh. It's a fantastic circuit and does promote a lot of close action.
A lot of elevation changes, also a good bit of areas on the racetrack to be able to overtake. Normally we're talking about just a couple of hot zones. There really is an abundance of hot zones on this course to be able to pass, but it can still be a little bit tricky, especially if they get into long slipstream lines. Could be difficult if you're not willing to be aggressive to make a move down in some of these braking zones, because they do rely a bit of aggression to be able to complete the passes.
Well, there are a good couple of drivers up and down the field that have been known to be a little bit more aggressive than others, so maybe we will see a fantastic amount of action here today. But of course, you know, round number 3, we're getting towards the we are of course the final race of the first half of the season. Look at this. This is how some of the drivers prepare. This is Bruno Carneiro just having a little bit of fun with the family pet there. And I mean, there's support from family members, of course, in series like this, but I guess those family members also count as non-humans.
Definitely cool to see, and you know, just relaxing before they get started with this race. Obviously, a lot of pressure can come from both the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup, the big races for the World Championship, but also these contender races, because they're, you know, stressed out trying to make it into the Super Cup. So just any sort of relaxation they can take is always important to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's absolutely fantastic to see that from Bruno Carneiro there, getting the support from his doggo there. Fantastic stuff. But heading into this event, of course, you know, this is how the drivers have gotten to this stage, and well, what they're looking to try and get into. So the bottom 20 finishers from last season's Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup, well, they were kind of quote-unquote demoted to this series, so they're having to compete for a slot in the next season. And of course, we had the top 15 drivers from the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup qualifying series as well. That's the series that was open to pretty much everyone on the iRacing service. That happened a good couple of months ago, and well, those top 15 in that series are also competing here today as well, to make a total of 35 drivers that are competing for 15 spots heading into the next season of the Super Cup. And well, the Super Cup, of course, you know, the most competitive series on iRacing, if you ask me, but this one's going to be this one has the potential to be absolutely crazy as well. We've already had a couple of races under our belt, and the action is as close as ever, so that shouldn't really be a change here heading into the Red Bull Ring.
And taking a look at the points, Connery, just the battle for that top 15 is going to continue to heat up. Right now, Brian Lockwood, Kamil Grabowski, both tied for that spot right now in the transfer for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. So as we go through the last half of this championship, the points will begin to really reach a point of, okay, we know who's going to be locked in and we know who is locked out. Who's on that cut line and who can get below that top 15 or above that top 15 in the last couple of races on the calendar. And really that all begins here with the Red Bull Ring. A bad run here for drivers below or on the cut line could lead to some very stressful final 3 rounds at Road Atlanta, Long Beach, and the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it's the driver of Carlos Fenalosa, who's currently the 15th place driver in the point standings right now. So if the season ended at the end of the last race, he would only just get through by the skin of his teeth. But a couple of other drivers around that 15th place. You have Kamil Grabowski in P14 at the moment. Brian Lockwood, one of the drivers from last season's Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. He's in 16th place in the point standings at the moment, so he would narrowly miss out if it ends here and now. Sam Keaton in 17th, Cooper Webster in P18. That's another one of your ex-drivers. So a lot of things still to be said about which drivers will end up in the top 15 and which won't. Here's Kane Halliburton, of course, from Jamaica there. So lots of drivers from all around the world going to be competing here today. And it's great to see Kane Halliburton out there as part of the Racecraft Esports team in the number 12 Porsche.
We'll see how he's going to do here in qualifying. Hasn't had, I think, the season he's really been looking for. Has been trying to get up closer to the top of each of the feature races and the heat races that we have had this season. But of course, we know, Connery, at any point a season can be turned around, and this is Kane Halliburton's opportunity to turn his season around here in the number 12.
Yep, it'd be a fantastic opportunity for him to be able to do so. And well, let's have a look then, because he's heading his way through on his qualifying laps right now. Of course, no one has been able to set a time just yet. We are very early on in this qualifying session. Although saying that, we do get the first couple of times start to trickle their way through. So Joe Gordestad has been able to set the initial time there, but he will get demoted further down the order as some of the little bit faster drivers are able to set themselves their times right now. But Quentin Vialati, provisional pole at the moment. Of course, he was the race winner last time out in the main race. Of course, the sprint race went to the driver of Gianni Vecchio, who's been on fire with regards to sprint racing in this series. So look out for him when it comes to the sprint race here at the Red Bull Ring as well. Here's Jordan Caruso in the number 22 machine there, heading his way through down that very long back straight into, well, like you said at this very start of the show, Josh, one of the main points where you see a lot of action today.
And also one of the trickiest portions of this course to get right. You got to make sure you get on the throttle at the proper time to limit the amount of wheel spin that you get and get a great run down this straightaway. It's used as a DRS zone in Formula 1 and is one of the opportunities for these drivers to get a little bit of a slipstream from these Porsches and make a run down into this corner right here. As we get a good look at David Williams now in the number 31, trying to complete his qualifying lap. He doesn't have a lap currently on the board. Looking to put one up here for that VRS Coanda SimSport number 31 machine. But right now, Vialati top of the board, exactly where he left off in Barcelona 1 week ago, Connery.
Yeah, it was fantastic performance at Barcelona as well, to keep a lot of very, very quick drivers behind him in the final stages of the race. But, you know, to be able to maybe start at the front in terms of the sprint race here today will just show an even further improvement from the driver from RHG Esports, as we continue to watch the Coanda car of David Williams, number 31, heading his way through towards the very end of the lap right now. And, well, he's hoping to have a little bit of a better qualifying effort here today. He still, of course, has another opportunity after this one to set a fast lap, but you'd want to do it on one of the first ones here as he heads his way out of the final corner. Teasing with the track limits a little bit here. Of course, they work a little bit differently here at the Red Bull Ring compared to a lot of the other tracks due to the new track limit system that iRacing have implemented for these new tracks. It's measured by the actual position of the tires on the track rather than the center of the car, which is the way the old track limits used to work. It just, the way it works here is, well, it's a little bit more accurate as to what it is in the real world, which is what we all strive for.
6 minutes left in qualifying. A decent amount of drivers here, Connery, have put in those lap times. Still waiting on Sedgwick, Christensen, Thompson, Sirica, Biko, Sipola, all to put in lap times on the racetrack as we focus on the 51 of Josh Thompson for Williams Esports. He's been up at the top of the timing sheet a lot this season, Connery. Hasn't been able to really put it together to make any sort of heat or feature race wins, but sitting 5th pretty comfortably above that cut line by about 30 points. So little bit of pressure off from Josh Thompson, but a P14 qualifying effort now, P15 as Fenalosa moves up into P13 on the timing sheet. It doesn't need to be stressing out too much, but definitely I don't think this is the speed that Williams Esports or Josh Thompson is really looking for here in virtual Austria.
Great time from Ayan Chandguven, though, of course, real-life race driver for Porsche. So he's stretching his legs here in the sim world as well. There is Joshua Thompson heading his way through for one of his final qualifying laps at the moment. But that's a good lap time there from Guven, very top of the timing order. And when you consider that he had a poor result in the first round at Hockenheim, and then he didn't even turn up for the second round at... oh, that's a lot of frustration there, actually, for Josh Thompson, just binning his qualifying lap, ruining it. But so he'll have to start way down the order. But for Guven, at least, this is recovery, perhaps, from, well, the absolute horribleness that was the first event, and, of course, the 0 points finish that was the second.
Oh, and another abandoned qualifying lap here, Connery, from Matty Sipola. So that's 2 in a row for Thompson and Sipola. Now we look at the 99, Laurent Benso. See where they can get. The French driver working his way through the middle sector here at the Red Bull Ring, out of turn 5 through turn 6. Trying to put his first time up on the board, and this is a big one, Connery. It's the first time that we're going to see from the 99. Will he have pace to keep up with the drivers in front? You look on board at the number 99 of Laurent Benso through the final corner. Turn number 8, using up all the track limits he possibly can, getting the maximum speed down the front straightaway. Where is it going to be in terms of the timing sheet? 1:30.018, only good enough for P23. There's like still a little bit of work to do in that number 99. As we take a look at the 92, Nicolas Labiche only going to go up to P29.
Yeah, so, well, time is starting to run out. Well, it's more like the laps are starting to run out here for these drivers because, yes, they do get 12 minutes worth of time to get their qualifying laps done. They're only able to set 3 timed flying laps, though, so sometimes they do use up all their flying laps before the time has actually expired. But for the number 92, Nicolas Labiche, well, he still has that 1 lap to use. He's on his 3rd lap of 3 here, and he has plenty of time before the session is done to be able to come across the line and get that lap in. But the season hasn't really gone off well for Nicolas Labiche at the moment. He's on 2 points, down in P31 in terms of the standings, and, well, he got 15 taken away from him due to post-race penalties. So he needs to be a little bit cleaner if he wants to try and start climbing up that board.
And he still has a bit of time to work his way up the point standings. It is not all over for those drivers that are under the cut line. And I'd go as far as to say Alexei Nesso of Kane Halliburton, Ricardo Rico, the bottom 3 on the board. Jovigard Gotterstad, Roger Christensen also down there as well. They still have an opportunity to get above the cut line. There is still, including Red Bull Ring here, 4 races left here in the standings, Connery. So they still have a lot of opportunities to get up into the top 15.
Well, we're having a look at a bit of a jack of all trades and master of probably most of them here with Bobby Zelensky in the number 83 Porsche. Of course, he's going to be competing in the iRacing NASCAR Coke Series a little bit later on. And, well, that's going to be a huge focus for him on Tuesday, of course, as I am reminded in my ear. But, yeah, for Zelensky, there's a lot to focus on over the next week or so with this race going on right now. Then his priorities will have to switch to the NASCAR oval racing side of things. So for Zelensky, for him to be quick in both series is a very, very big accomplishment. And, well, it's a big accomplishment to be quick in one series, let alone multiple disciplines.
And quick in this one, he is second place currently for Bobby Zelensky as Roger Christiansen, the Norway driver for Fox Gaming, tries to put in a better lap time to move himself just a little bit closer up to the top, as the 71 has not even put in a qualifying lap yet. This is going to be his first one, assuming he can make it back in time, and it looks like he found out he cannot, so he slows it down. A minute 10 left in qualifying, Connery. Really, any driver who is on the track now for a lap can get their final lap in. It looks like only Dino Lombardi, Peter Berryman, Bobby Zelensky, and Matty Sipola have an opportunity to get this final lap in as Sipola comes through the final corner.
Yeah, Sipola had all of his qualifying laps done, so he wouldn't have been able to improve even if it was a good lap there from Sipola. Here's Alexei Nesov, who is basically rock bottom in terms of the point standings at the moment, so looking to maybe build a campaign off of race number 3 here. His chances of qualifying into the series, of course, rather slim at this point, but still continuing to join us here as he waves up across the line. I get the feeling that that wasn't a great qualifying lap there from Alexei Nesov, and in fact it was indeed invalid. So he won't have enough time to be able to get to the end of this lap to set another time due to the fact here in solo qualifying, once that timer expires, that is everything done. You won't be able to complete your qualifying lap. So the grid as you see it, or rather the timing as you see it on the left-hand side of your screen, that is pretty much going to be your starting grid for the sprint race.
We'll take a look at that grid here in just a moment, but this is the start of the day here from the Red Bull Ring. Connery, this sprint race is going to set the tone for the rest of the day and really see who's going to be starting up front in the feature after that invert.
Well, let's have a look then at how they're going to line up here on the starting grid of the sprint race. Remember, sprint race 10 laps, feature race 20 laps with an inverted grid for the top 8, but this is how they start for the sprint. Ayanchan Guven, pole position for the number 53 with Bobby Zelensky lining up on the front row next to him. Brian Lockwood in P3 with David Williams in P4. Oscar Biscuit in P5 with Kenton Violate P6. That's your main race winner from Barcelona. On the inside of row 4 is Cooper Webster with Julian Sohn in that outside portion of row number 4. Then Alessandro Pico, Dino Lombardi, Gianni Vecchio starting all the way back in row number 6. That's one of the strongest drivers in the field, so he has a lot of work to do here today if he's going to gain a whole bunch of points, especially in the sprint race. Moreno Strica on the outside of his particular row. 13th and 14th on the starting grid go to Peter Berryman and Alexander Volters with Caruso, Kazubon, Keatit, and Fenolosa falling back to the P18 spot. Kimachev, Thompson, Rankin, Anderson, Sedgwick, and Benzo occupy rows 10 through 12. Then Grabowski, Halliburton, Goddestad, Laubish, Caniero, and Griffin Gardner on the outside of row 15 there at the very back. And then those drivers at the very back, the last 3 drivers, Matti Sipler, Alexei Nesov, and Roger Christiansen. Those 3 drivers not able to set themselves a lap time in qualifying, which is why they have to start at the very back of the starting grid here today. So drivers are getting themselves ready now. It's a relatively short run up in towards turn number 1, and it has the guess that's where you won't see most of the action here on the first lap. That would be coming down into both turn number 3 and turn number 4, as these cars have the tendency to stick together in sometimes a bit of a slipstream train on the way down through those sections of track. But we're just about to get ready for the sprint race here. Most of the drivers have gotten themselves to that starting grid. It's Ayanchan Guven on pole position, Bobby Zelensky on his outside to the left-hand side of your screen. We're about to get started here at the Red Bull Ring for round number 3 of the Contender Series. It's a very, very poor start from the Racecraft Esports driver of Brian Lockwood. He's going to get swallowed up by the field as we head up in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Ayanchan Guven able to lead through there. Zelensky in second place. Williams and Bistrud are fighting for third at the moment. The 2 teammates scrapping in and amongst each other. Webster and Brian Lockwood also heading side by side here. There's a car off, as that's the number 15 car. That's, or rather, 50 car, excuse me. That is Peter Berryman having problems early on here on this first lap as they head their way through the right hand. They're all still stacked up together, all still trying to jostle for position. Speaking of, those 2 battles I mentioned at the start, Biscuit, Williams, Webster, and Lockwood, they're still fighting it out on the way to 4.
Into turn 4, Bisker is going to get the best of that one. 3 wide, I believe, for a moment as Alessandro Bico tries to move to the inside of Cooper Webster in that Logitech G Altus Esports machine. They get it settled out. Still more battling as Sunin goes to the inside of Brian Lockwood. They're still side by side as they race through turn 4 and 5. Dumping out now into turn number 6. They'll be right back to the front straight away very quickly. One of the shorter road courses on the iRacing service, and that will field visit this season, already about to complete the first lap. As issues in the back, it looks like Grabowski's off.
Yeah, it does look to be the case there towards the very back of the field. He's going to have to get himself rejoined onto the circuit and behind by a huge amount to everyone else. It was a bit of door-to-door contact, I think. It might have been with Elvis Rankin in the number 91, as Rankin was trying to keep himself on the track. It just sort of took up Grabowski with him. But towards the end of lap number 1, on towards lap number 2, there's a little bit more drama going on further back here as well, as Keatit has had a bit of an off there in the back as well. So lots and lots of things to talk about here on the start, as we'll see the number 37 dive down the inside of David Williams. He's going to be able to gain that position as we look at the replay of the number 97.
The number 95 of Grabowski. Oh, contact with Berryman. Berryman got loose on the inside. Some small contact there. And here's the issue with Berryman on that opening first turn. He got turned around middle of the pack, and contact with one of the Altus machines. He slammed into one driver. Luckily, didn't slam into anybody else. He gets it back going straight. But 2 issues for Peter Berryman on that first lap. Connery, not the best start for the Apex Racing Team driver that he wanted.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great start for most of the Apex Racing Team cars. In fact, he had Elvis Rankin a little bit deeper in the order, also get himself in a little bit of car-to-car contact. This scrapping right now. You got Pico, you got Williams, all involved in this one. We're riding on board with Pico at the moment, as he's, well, concerned about the car ahead. He's perhaps even more concerned about the car behind at the moment, because David Williams is locked onto the back of him.
Locked on is right. He is right there trying to get by him, and a great Vodafone on board with Alessandro Bico, running currently P5, trying to work his way up closer to that lead and get by Cooper Webster. Remember, top 8 invert, Connery. So right now, the invert pole sitter is Julian Sohn. So right now, Bico's going to be starting about mid-pack, but we know they want to race up in the front no matter what. He's looking to make a move on Webster if he can, but here's the battle for the lead. Now 3 cars strong with Guvin, Zelensky, and Bixroad.
Absolutely. So these 3 cars looking to try and break away from those behind. Well, it's mostly been those behind scrapping in amongst each other that has kind of caused this gap at the very front. So I think if you're one of these front 3, you're hoping that there's even more scrapping behind, just so that you're safer and can run for the hills and maybe have a bit of a fight amongst yourself towards the end of the race without anyone else getting themselves involved. That's going to be the ideal situation for those front 3. But maybe for the second pack, they need to form up a little bit just to make sure that they can get the very tail end of whatever slipstream that they're getting from the top 3 at the moment and try and reel them in. Here's the onboards, Vodafone onboard with Brian Lockwood there as we're looking back at everything going on behind him. That's Julian Sohn that's immediately behind him. We have Kenton Violati, feature race winner from Barcelona there. Dino Lombardi towards the tail end of that particular pack as well. Of course, that was the feature race winner from Hockenheimring. So Lockwood has no shortage of talent behind him trying to get past.
Not at all, but still have a bit of work to do for Julian Sohn if he wants to pass Brian Lockwood, because right now that gap is about 4/10, making it a little bit difficult for Sohn to really make an aggressive move to make that pass happen. He needs to catch him first if he wants to be able to make that move. But Lockwood's still sitting comfortably in 7th, and take a look at the rig for Ehanshan Guvin, currently running P number 1. Got the triple screens, got the, I believe that's a direct drive wheel, Connery. He is sitting stylish.
I mean, it would be for a lot of these drivers. They want to get the best equipment possible to go competing. He even has a screen up above the triple screens as well. So that's a preferred setup from some of the triple screen streamers that I've seen. They like have all their broadcasting tools up above, but you can also use it as a bit of utility to give you some telemetry and timing and some such as well sometimes. So it doesn't look like Ehanshan has anything on that top screen for the moment. He's just focused and zoned in on trying to maintain that race lead. He's doing very, very well at the moment. He's gotten himself over half a second gap back to Zelensky.
Trying to hold that lead as we take a look at a Vodafone replay of the number 81 machine. That's Quentin Violate. Looks like, oh my, 3 wide going into turn number 2, and he got the bad end of the stick there, Connery. He got contact with, I believe that was the 13 of Dino Lombardi on his inside, as well as the 51 of Josh Thompson, and him being on the outside of 3 wide. They both pushed up into him. He got the worst of it, currently trying to fight back from P18. Long ways from where he was at the end of Barcelona's main race.
In fact, it was the red line driver of Gianni Vecchio that was on the extreme inside there. So that is your championship leader at the moment, getting himself involved in something that he perhaps shouldn't. He knows how risky those kinds of moves are to the inside, but maybe he wasn't expecting the car directly ahead of him to also go for a move on the car ahead of them. Let's have a look at the Vodafone onboard then with Webster, number 37 in 4th place there. Very fancy gloves going on there. I do like the scheme.
I like the green. It does match his car, which is always great. If you can match your gloves with your car, he's looking stylish there and trying to keep up now in P4, and you can just see that focus on his face. He has a good ways up to Oscar Bixrud, who's the next driver that he is fighting on the racetrack, still trying to keep Alessandro Bico at bay and the number 77 behind him. So makes sense to see him so focused out there. And quick glance, maybe looking over at his timing screen, making sure that Alessandro Bico isn't catching up too fast.
There we go. But look at this absolute train going on right now. And, coming up towards the halfway point of the race now, Josh. And, we've already had plenty of action in the first half. Let's see what the second half of the sprint race has to hold here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. That's one of the Kova cars just trying to make a move on someone ahead there. This is deeper in the pack indeed, as we'll get to see this swarm of cars head their way through. And let's see what happens here up in towards Tinderbourne. It's number 12 car involved in that one. That's Kane Halliburton getting involved in the thick of things. Laurent Benso's in the red machine, the red and white. And you've also got Matti Sipler in the Kova car trying to hold everyone behind here. It's a big cluster of cars, and it's for minor points here, but this is how much these guys are desperate to get themselves some points on the board, that they're scrapping this much for something so minor as this contact behind. Kane Halliburton's around.
They were all fighting for the same real estate down into turn number 2, and unfortunately Kane Halliburton is the one to get turned around there in the number 12, and unfortunately that's going to be it for him. He'll tow it back into the pit lane. So unfortunate for Kane Halliburton, trying to get some better results on the season for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. Fortunately, this sprint race is not going to be that. Maybe he'll be able to get back in the main race, but we're taking a look at a Vodafone replay of that incident. 3 wide just about, diving into the corner, running in the grass, running over cones as well. Everybody fighting for that inside line down into turn number 2. That's Halliburton going up the middle of 3 wide. I believe it settles out to 2. Yes, it does, and contact with one of the drivers behind him. I believe that was one of the Apex cars back there that hit him. Maybe Peter Berryman, or it could have been Bruno Carneiro as well. It was Berryman who made contact with him in the 50. So Berryman definitely not making a lot of friends here in the sprint race, Connor. I believe we're up to car number 3, or incident number 3, involving Peter Berryman.
Yeah, so he's been a bit of a punching bag here so far in this race. Another large battle there, as we'll have the number 10 involved in this one. Alexei Nesov, 33's involved in this. Jack Sedgwick, Griffin Gardner, all scrapping it out. And there's also battles further in front of them. You've got battle for 10th going on between Vecchio, Caruso, Thompson, Kimichev. It's just not a lot to separate these guys in the front end of the mid pack here for the moment, as there's the number 51 of Josh Thompson looking down the inside. Jordan Caruso is able to secure that one. It actually makes Caruso now have to try and defend from Vlad Kimichev, who is the driver we're on board with right now, the Russian in the number 25, looking to go the long way around here through turn 6, now in towards turn number 7. It's not usually a thing to go around the outside there, which is why you saw him lose all the momentum, but he's certainly still very close to Caruso. He has to back out of things, though, and now Dino Lombardi behind might get himself a run. But again, in these final couple of corners, not really a place where you can bring it alongside.
Lombardi, his worst finish in a feature race this season is second place last round at Barcelona. He is breathing down the neck of Kimachev right now, trying to take over that third spot. And as we get single filed out now, 3 laps to go here in the sprint race from the Red Bull Ring. 10 laps goes by relatively quickly here, Connery. Only about 1.5 minutes average lap time. So these laps, they go by pretty quickly, just like they do in Formula One. We could see the end of the race come a lot sooner than a lot of people might think. And here's the battle for P3 as we take a look at a Vodafone on board with Cooper Webster in the 37. Tried to go up the inside of Oscar Bixrud, could not do it. He'll settle for P4 for the moment, trying to leave that door open, but can't take it. And here comes Biko now. He's trying to find an open door to get by Webster in the battle for third.
Great job from those guys sort of in that second grouping of cars to reel in the front 3. So it's more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars involved. I guess if you count the stragglers at the back there, involved in these podium position fights for the moment. So this can get pretty entertaining pretty quickly here as we're heading in towards the final portions of the race now. Front pack just spreading themselves out just a little bit, but everything will close back in once we get to those slipstream portions, I would say, of the lap through the first sector. But out of the final corner now, 2 to go as we head our way across the line. Here's the Vodafone on board with Alessandro Biko, who's 5th in line at the moment. Let's see how far he can get himself up there.
Alessandro Biko has been one of the drivers this season. It seems like we're always talking about him, Connery, but the results don't really show that. He's 8th currently in the points, still about 25 points up from the cut line, which is nothing to slouch at all, but hasn't been able to put the results into the win column that I think he's looking for. And we haven't really seen him too much in the top 5 when it comes to the end of a lot of these races, but we talk about him pretty much every race, Connery. Must be making some sort of an impression as he runs P5.
Yeah, fantastic driver indeed. And, well, let's see the further progress throughout the rest of this race. For Alessandro Biko, 11th in points at the moment. And, well, if he's able to secure these top 5 finishes in not both the sprint race and but, of course, the feature as well, maybe he can promote himself a little bit further up the points and make himself a little more safe compared to those drivers behind. So that's the important thing for a lot of these drivers, not necessarily getting up there and finishing top 3 or winning the championship. It's just to make themselves as safe as possible from that cut line of the top 15. Here's a replay of the 28 car, Carlos Fenalosa from Altus Esports. Did he get himself involved in something here? Let's just have a watch and see.
Here's Vodafone Replay diving into the tight hairpin, uphill exit, and there's the contact, and around he goes over into the grass, able to get back going. And as we were taking a look at that Vodafone replay, contact between Alessandro Biko and one other driver, I believe David Williams. They did make contact going down into one of the final right-handers on this course. Biko got hit off track down into P7 now. So we hop up to the battle for P4. Webster to the inside. This is a risky move. Final lap of the sprint race here, Connery.
Here we go then, battle for P3 on, and well, if these guys can lock onto the front 2, maybe a battle for just that little bit more. Final lap of the sprint race on the run down in towards turn number 4, downhill braking zone here, as these guys will file their way through there. Bistrud in 3rd place at the moment. He's the one under the bigger amount of pressure at the moment in and amongst this leading train. The front 2 have been able to get themselves a bit of a comfortable buffer here at the very end of the race through turn 6, now up in towards turn number 7. The opportunities are very limited now for you to try and get yourself squeezed by and to gain a couple of more points here in the sprint race. So I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in the order that they're in right now, pending any issues heading into the final 2 turns. So through turn 9 and then coming up towards turn number 10. At the very front of the field, it's been a very comfortable race for Ayanchan Guven as he gets his first sprint race win of the season here at the Red Bull Ring. Ayanchan Guven wins from Zelensky from Oscar Biskrud in 3rd.
All the battles come to an end as we see drivers fanning out on the front straightaway. Finishing out that top 8 is going to be Julian Sohn. We're going to see him start on the pole for the feature race here, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to keep track of where that reverse grid pole position stands, but it does go to Julian Sohn in with Alessandro Pico, who's going to be on that front row with him. But there's the unofficial race results here from the sprint race. Ayaan Shanguven from Bobby Zelensky, from Oscar Bixrud in third place. You got, and you also in fourth, you've got Cooper Webster. David Williams in fifth, with Brian Lockwood in sixth, Alessandro Pico in seventh, Julian Sohn and your reverse grid pole position sitter in that eighth spot. Moreno Soricha in P number 9, he'll narrowly miss out on that reverse grid pole position, and Gianni Vecchio there in 10th place. And well, an improvement from one position from where he started, but it's not been a great time so far for the championship leader. Josh Thompson in P11 with Jordan Caruso in P12, and you can see the rest of the names cycling their way through here down towards the bottom end of the top 30. Matti Sipler, the first car that will be counted as a lap down in this situation, and there's going to be a handful of drivers that retired behind him as well. Via Latte will be 2 laps down. Halliburton, of course, we saw his retirement, and Thibaut Casabon retired on lap number 2 of the race as well. So we got a little bit of a break here before we head into feature race racing here at the Red Bull Ring. It'll be a race that's twice the length here of the sprint race, so 20 laps will be that main race, and well, 20 laps more action here, especially if you're in the mid-pack. That might be a little bit concerning with how much those guys were having to have their head on a swivel.
We saw a lot of carnage coming out of that mid-pack, but I think that's just the aggression that a lot of drivers see with the sprint race. You know, only 10 laps, and especially at the Red Bull Ring, there's not a lot of time at all, so they wanted to get those moves made early. They were trying to fight to get up closer to that inverse position of P8. Now we have 20 laps, a bit more relaxed. It is the feature race, so a lot more points are up for grabs, but you need to be just consistent throughout the entire race. Just make it to the checkered flag and try and get those points on the board, because ultimately that's what's the most important as we go into the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, reverse grid pole position sitter now coming into the feature race will be Julian Sohn, and he's been in a very similar situation before. He started on the front row for a main race before. He started in P2 for the last one at Barcelona, and he was able to come away with a third place finish in that race, a podium finish. So he tends to have the ability to be able to keep drivers behind him. Only lost 1 spot in that particular race, but maybe it's a little bit of a different beast now. Being on the pole position for a feature race changes the context of everything a little bit.
And we have seen a lot of drivers who have started on the pole of the feature race have a lot of success in the feature race. I think back to Quinton Vialate 1 week ago at Barcelona. We weren't really talking about him until he got that reverse grid pole and was starting on the front row of the feature race, dominated the feature race at Barcelona. So it can be seen as a bit of a gift. You can see Julian Sohn walk to victory lane for the first time in the Contender series here today, but still a lot of great drivers that are going to be fighting through that reverse grid, especially the sprint race winner who'll be starting down there in P8.
Of course, he'll be looking at how Ayaan Shanguven was able to run away at the front of the field here in the sprint race. He's going to be looking to do the same in the feature race. But it's like I said, though, it's still the race length, so a lot more time to be able to do that. A lot more time for drivers that get on the bad end of the reverse grid to be able to work their way through and fight for those top couple of positions. So lots to talk about here coming into the feature event. And I did mention it at the time during that race, Joshua. It's a little bit of a weird one right now for Gianni Vecchio. He is your championship leader for the moment, but here at the Red Bull Ring, it doesn't seem like things are clicking.
Definitely not so far, and Vecchio is one of the strongest drivers, like you mentioned, current points leader, was able to get the sprint race win back at Barcelona as well. So he's had a lot of great runs, but an average start in the feature of 8th with an average finish of 2nd. If anybody knows how to get up to the field, it's Vecchio.
Yep, so we'll track his progress in the 20-lap feature here, but we will have a little bit of a look at a couple of highlights here from the sprint race at the Red Bull Ring. And, well, it started off with a bad start from Brian Lockwood there, as you can see him on the right-hand side of your picture, losing a good couple positions on the start. But this is the most trouble Ayaan Shanguven has had all day, trying to maintain that P1 in towards turn number 1. Once he got that over and done with, well, he was basically clear to the end.
exactly what he needed to do. And look at that turn one carnage. There's Peter Berryman getting turned by the Logitech G Altus Esports driver in the middle. Here's more trouble with Peter Berryman. Gets loose on the curb and fortunately makes contact with Kamil Grabowski. That moves him off of the racetrack. But overall, still a lot of great racing that we saw in the sprint. And there is the number 81 getting turned around of Quentin Violate through that corner. There's another Racecraft Esports driver getting turned around as well. Lot of hot button issues going into that hairpin down there. Connery of turn 3. Don't think they're exactly done as we get ready for the feature.
The little warm-up session that we have in between races is over and done with, so therefore we can show you the starting grid here for the feature event. It is Julian Sohn that's going to sit on pole position with Alessandro Bico on the outside of the front row. Brian Lockwood and David Williams will line up P3, P4, with Cooper Webster and Oscar Biskrud bringing things down to P6. Zelensky and Guven will start in 7th and 8th as the drivers quote-unquote punished the most from the reverse grid. Moreno Sorica in P9 with Gianni Vecchio starting in 10th. Josh Thompson in 11th with Caruso in 12th. Kimichev, Lombardi, Rankin and Volters will bring things down to P16. Laubish and Anderson will start 17th and 18th respectively. Keated in 19th with Alexei Nesov in 20th. Griffin Gardner starting 21st with Jack Sedgwick in 22nd. Vanalosa, Benso, Goddestad bringing things down to 25. And then those drivers at the very back that had very poor sprint races, they'll have to start exactly where they finished here for the feature event. Berryman, Canairo, Christiansen, Grabowski, Sipler, Violate, Halliburton, and Kazubon at the very back here today. So we just got about 40 to 50 seconds before we get ourselves the sprint race started here. Josh, just maybe a couple of words before we get going here, because I'm super excited to see how far Zelensky and Guven can get up through this field as we take a look at the drivers.
Well, judging by what we saw in the sprint race, I'm going to go with survival as the main word that I'm going to give to these drivers before they get strapped in and get started on the grid. You need to survive. You need to get those points out of this feature, especially at this stage in the Contender series. Giving up points is not an option, especially if you are under that cut line. You got to survive, you got to finish the race, and you got to get up front.
That's the main task, isn't it? 20 laps of racing here at the Red Bull Ring for the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series main race. Those engine notes will rise. It's a very short hold here today as it's Alessandro Bico getting away well on the front row. He'll be able to challenge for P1 up in towards turn number 1 for the first time here. Alessandro Bico from P2 into P1 in the opening of the feature race. Sohn in P2, Lockwood P3, Williams and Webster are scrapping it out for P4 here on the way down in towards turn number 3.
Keychert spins at turn number 1. We stay with the battle for the lead. Look at Bico up front, already to the lead. A great move on Sohn in turn number 1, and more issues for more drivers. Webster's around middle of the pack. Everybody trying to avoid. More cars getting involved. It's carnage in turn 3.
That's exactly what happens sometimes if there's an incident and a car spun around in the middle of the circuit towards the very front of the field. It causes everyone behind to have to scatter to try to avoid. It was front to rear contact from Zelensky onto Webster that spun Webster right in front of the field. The rejoin reversing back into the racing line from Webster wasn't ideal, I will say. He might be getting a post-race penalty because of that, but it did wipe out a good chunk of the field here towards the back.
Look at the front drivers still racing on. That's Lockwood in P3. Bico, Sohn in your top 2 with Williams and Bixrud back from there. Bico needs to try and pull away. He needs to get out of this 0.3 to 0.4 gap that is in between first and second. So giving Sohn basically the option of racing aggressive and making a diving move instead of an easy move for the race lead. Already getting to that gap is Bico, as look at Lockwood. He wanted second place, had to move back in the line, couldn't get the move made as they go through 1.
Yeah, so he's, for Lockwood at least, it's was starting P3, remains in P3. The swap for position happened ahead of him on the way in towards turn number 1. Here's a little bit of a replay here of the start, heading up in towards turn number 1. There's the contact with the 4-teamer Sankitit in towards turn number 1 there, spat towards the outside. And this is what happened down in towards turn number 3. There's Webster spun around. There's everyone just scattering to try to avoid, and it's sometimes a matter of luck whether you picked your right line through all of that.
And a lot of drivers, unfortunately, chose the right line, Connery, but other drivers choosing the wrong line going into their line does not help them too much now, does it? It was just a lot of drivers getting involved in that one, and unfortunate to everybody that was involved. A couple of them were able to continue on the racetrack with a little bit of damage. A handful are now into the pit lane for the end of their race. It's unfortunate for a lot of those drivers, especially seeing as a majority of them are drivers that are still below the cut line. This is going to make the next 3 races for them incredibly stressful as we reach that cutoff point for the Contender Series.
Coming through the final corner to complete lap number 2, then order is Biko, Sohn, Lockwood, Williams, Biskrud in in that order, as we have Sricha on the back of Biskrud at the moment, on the way up in towards turn number 1. But for now, you can see that John Caruso setting the fastest laps, quickly surpassed there by Sam Keatitz there. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing here in the opening couple of laps of the event, with the fastest laps coming through thick and fast. But things seem to have calmed down a little bit at the very front of the field here, as there's no immediate moves going on, but a whole lot of pressure being applied. That's for certain. Let's see where the drivers that got themselves started P7, P8 in terms of the main race here today. Guven actually lost a handful of positions in and amongst that lap 1 mess. He went from P8 down into P10, which is not ideal for your sprint race winner.
We keep on board with Brian Lockwood currently in P3. Biko and Sohn doing a good job trying to keep at the front of this field. Biko especially, he's over a half second over Julian Sohn now, which is really going to help Biko be able to control this race. If Sohn's not right behind him, that means that he has a bit more of time if Sohn starts to catch up to be able to change his line, be able to change his strategy in that number 77. Biko's doing exactly what he needs to do, and exactly what we have seen from Dino Lombardi, from Quentin Villolate. Once they get in the lead, pull away, make the pass for the lead, be very difficult for that car in P2, make it nearly impossible for them if you need to, and run away with that race lead and control the race for all 20 laps. He's controlled it for 3. Let's see if he can continue.
It's literally not the most powerful thing in these cars. Certainly not as powerful as they would be in maybe some other categories of racing, namely, there was almost a little bit of an instant there heading in towards turn number 3 involving Lockwood and Williams towards the very front of the order here. Williams almost, in fact, did run into the back of Lockwood, just got him out of shape a little bit, but Lockwood was able to continue on as here comes Kimachev down the inside of Bobby Zelensky in towards turn 4, and Kimachev has been able to secure that position. Guven looking to pick up the pieces as well.
Zelensky down into P9, and Guven is exactly going to do that. Take a look at that quick move to the inside for the 53. Going to pick up P9 from Zelensky. Zelensky's fallen like a lead balloon right now. Not what Zelensky needs, but still trying to keep up here and stay inside the top 10 as Elvis Rankin moves to P11, trying to chase down Zelensky now. So we get a good look at the Vodafone on board. They race back to the start-finish line. Everybody now getting stuck into this race, Connery, feeling out their cars, knowing what they have here for the feature, and assessing where they are, because that is going to determine how aggressive they race. If you're currently near a lot of cars, maybe you want to try and get by them quickly. Maybe you want to sit around and ride, make sure you just get some consistent points and make it to the end. A lot of different strategies are going to be up and down the field as we still see cars scrapping up and down the race.
Here's the battle between Lockwood and Williams, though. They made a bit of contact last time heading into this very same corner here. You can see how much later David Williams is on the brakes into there and is able to close up the gap. Of course, that happens visually anyway, even if the gap remains the same. But it does seem Williams just that little bit better in terms of getting the car stopped down into these corners, and you can see that again it catches him by surprise. Another little bit of contact there from Williams onto Lockwood, but this time it ends up in a lost position or 2 for Lockwood, and maybe even 3 if Streach is able to get by.
That was millimeters miscalculated for the 31 there. He made that move just a little bit too late. Lockwood was already committed to the line, moved him up and out of that groove, and Lockwood only goes down into P number 5 for the moment. Siric now going to be breathing down his neck in P6. Lockwood trying to hold on to that 5th spot and needs to get some more consistent points on the board, because right now, Connery, he is tied with Kamil Grabowski for that cut line spot. Now, Grabowski is out of this race. He currently sits in the pit lane 5 laps down. So any points that Lockwood can get here is going to be important and can change the scope of how the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series finishes in the last 3 rounds.
Of course, those points you talk about don't include the results from the sprint race that we've just had. But yeah, so important here for those drivers to make sure they can get a good finish on the way in towards the second half of the season. We will take we won't take a little bit of a break just yet, because there's Moreno Sarica down the inside of Brian Lockwood there in towards turn number 3, and they'll be half a car length between them on the way down in towards turn number 4. How much does Lockwood squeeze Sarica here? How much does Sarica squeeze Lockwood? That's the more of the issue. They don't squeeze each other at all. They give each other racing room on the way through turn 4 here, and wow, they're still side by side, and Caruso is there just being the cameraman. Well, hello everyone, welcome back. That was our Bose full throttle segment there, just letting you listen to the cars there. But Jordan Caruso, unfortunately, has been involved in a little bit of an incident there on the while we were away from that segment. Big incident on the way down in towards turn number 6, and I think it was the driver of Ayanchan Guven that got into the back of him a little bit, and it was also Vlad Kimichev also involved in that one as well. So a little bit of action happening while we were away in that one as we head relatively quickly towards the halfway point of this race. But here's a replay of exactly what happened there, Josh.
Yeah, here's the Vodafone Replay, and you can see it was just maybe misjudging the braking zone for Guven, and it became a bowling alley there. One car gets contact, the next car gets hit, and unfortunately, Kimichev and Caruso are now going to be either down the order or in the pit lane. Jordan Caruso, he's in the pit lane. Kimichev able to continue on the racetrack right now, but P24, not the finish the 25 was looking for in this race. Is battle for the lead. Connery starting to heat up. They're inside 3/10.
Just getting that little bit closer, There's the number 83 car, Zelensky. Giving a bit of the flash to the lights there to Gianni Vecchio. I don't think Zelensky was particularly happy about Gianni for that reason there. Looking back on my own replay, I don't really see any reason why he would be so hard done by anything that Gianni has done there. But sometimes the drivers do tend to be a bit eager on the flashy light button, some more than others, and well, just trying to give a signal, I suppose.
Getting a good look in the Vodafone onboard with Bobby Zelensky here, currently P9, and you just saw that move made by Gianni Vecchio, and good run from Vecchio to be able to rebound. It wasn't a stellar sprint race from the 70, now up 2 spots from where he started into P8. Great run for Vecchio so far. Zelensky, can't say the same about him, down 2 spots from where he started in P number 7. A second place finish for him in the sprint race with the top 8 invert netted him a 7th place starting spot here for the feature. Unfortunately, 2 spots down from where he started. Nobody in this top 10 is exactly where they started, Connor. You got to go back to Josh Thompson. He's exactly where he started in P11.
He is a fantastic amount of positions gained by Volters from 16th to 10th place for the moment. Great from Carlos Fenalosa, who went from P23 up into P13 so far in this feature event. So fantastic stuff there from the driver of the number 28 Porsche out there. And, well, if you're looking at the opposite sort of situation, we have Cooper Webster down through the order. He started 5th place. He's now in 20th, but at least he is still running. Same could not be said by well, a good couple of cars towards the very bottom of the order here. We have, I count 7 cars that have retired from the event.
And all of them just caught up in incidents. Of course, one piece of contact can lead to other piece of contact, and unfortunately it just becomes just sort of like a snowball effect there as we go into Vodafone onboard. Carlos Fenalosa, one of those drivers you were mentioning, Connery, with a great run here in the feature, up 10 spots from where he started in P23. An absolutely stellar job so far from the Logitech G Altus Esports. Number 28, able to get by feature race winner from Hockenheim Ring, Dino Lombardi, now trying to chase up to Elvis Ronkin for Apex Racing Team, who currently sits up in front of him in P12. Some great points that Carlos Fenalosa is looking for to move him further up into the transfer spots.
Yeah, here's the Carniro there with what I think is probably a fan blowing at him with his hair movement right there. It looks like he's in a, you know, how they have the you know, during with rock bands and metal bands where they just have these wind machines just to blow their hair back. That's kind of what the feeling I'm getting there from Carniro at the moment. Of course, he had a little bit of a feature on our broadcast a little bit earlier on with his dog coming to make sure that he's happy and prepared for the event. He's running in 23rd at the moment, which is not the most ideal position to be running in for the moment, but it is ahead of where he started, which was P27.
We go through another Vodafone onboard. Gianni Vecchio here, currently P8, and Vecchio, of course, comes into this race as the points leader and with no sprint points allocated, but he did get 10th place in the sprint, so won't be too many points there as Vecchio tries to run away from Bobby Zelensky, exactly what he is doing right now. Had a bit of a considerable margin, about 14 points over Dino Lombardi and Peter Berryman, who are tied for 2nd place in the points entering this round, Connery. So I think he might have a good opportunity to stay on that points lead, but I do think Lombardi is going to try and get a little bit closer to there, but Lombardi not having the best day either as he currently runs P14. One more Vodafone onboard with Gardner right now currently running P22.
Yeah, with what you were saying about Vecchio, I don't think he's going to be too concerned about the results here today, given, you know, how many points he was able to gain in the first 2 rounds of the season. I think he said in his interview at the end of Barcelona where this is one of the tracks where he doesn't really feel all that confident on, and well, you can see the story on the left-hand side of your screen, down in P8 for the moment, but still a solid amount of points, but maybe we'll see how the mathematics works out towards the very end of this one to see if he maintains that championship lead or not. But we've 10 to go at the moment. We are officially at the halfway point of this event, of the feature race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. Top 15 in this series get themselves a ticket booked into next year's Super Cup. That's the main thing here in this one. Of course, it's kind of, you get the feeling, Joshua, that the actual championship lead kind of comes secondary to that.
Definitely, and we hear from a lot of these drivers that they want to take it race by race. A lot of them aren't focusing on the grand scheme of the points. They're focusing on getting a good result in this race and this race only. Once that race is done, they're looking to the next race. They're not looking for the last round of the season and, oh, where am I in the points going into the last round? Of course, it's something we talk about because we need to be watching that for the top 15 to know who's going to be added to the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup. But for the drivers on the track, a lot of them take it race by race to not only avoid stress, but just try and get the best finishes in each race, because we know, Connery, consistent finishes lead to consistent points.
It really, really does. And, well, there's multiple examples of that throughout sim racing and throughout the... of course, we have to show it again. Of course, we have to milk it for all it's worth. We should have an official doggo cam here on iRacing broadcasts. And, well, there we go. Gotta love to see that, Josh.
And I bet he wants that dog back in his room. Definitely not having the day that he is looking for right now, as he runs currently I believe somewhere in the P20s at the moment. P23, excuse me, for Bruno Canero. But we'll see if he gets that dog back in there post-race, and maybe we can grab another view of that, as Jack Sedgwick currently running through in P10, currently P18, and a bit of a sandwich between Kiesert and Webster right now, trying to work his way up closer into the top 10. Currently P18, Connery, but not a terrible day when you look at where he started in P22. He's up a good bit of spots.
Really is. But Valve of P17 on. Kiesert's involved in this, Sedgwick, Webster, Violate deeper in the order. Of course, Violate not having the best of times, at least compared to his Barcelona performance, where he was able to grab the feature race reverse grid pole position and come away with the feature race win as well. It's a little bit more of a struggle here today for Violate. So there's still opportunities, though, for him to promote himself a little bit further up the finishing order here today. So it's not all gone so wrong for him for the moment. Battling ahead of this pack, though, Lombardi and Fenalosa are looking to go wheel to wheel. You just saw that on the left-hand side there, as they'll continue to have this overlap on the way down into the downhill braking of turn number 4. Lombardi on the inside, it's Fenalosa on the outside, and Lombardi has just about been able to get ahead and gain that position there in that particular train.
Vodafone on board, Matty Sipola, currently P16. He's another one of the fan drivers, has a fan blowing on him at all times. Helps him keep cool. He's probably getting hot with the computer running next to him, most likely running at least maybe a widescreen monitor, maybe triples and a direct drive wheel, and a towel on his seat there as well. Possibly getting just a little bit sweaty. And, you know, have the fan, have the towel, make sure that you are clean and comfortable in that sim rig, especially for long periods of time. And this feature race, not too terribly long. Of course, double the distance of the sprint race, but about 12 minutes, 13 minutes for the sprint race, about 24 minutes here for the feature race. Not long in the scope of, you know, an hour, 2 hours, or any of the endurance races you can race on iRacing. But for these Porsches, it is a good bit of time, and it does take a different strategy than the sprint race.
This onboard with Sipola low is just giving us a good angle of the fight ahead, but now Sipola's going to get himself stuck in and looking for a line to try and make his way through, but it's not going to be available just yet unless he goes late on the brakes like this on the way in towards turn number 3 here. Careful not to make contact with the car on the outside there of Peter Berryman, but Berryman is through and clear. Sipola's attempt was not successful whatsoever. We're looking for the 91 looking to make a move on the number 16 ahead as well. So as we're into the second half of the race now, drivers feeling a little bit more pressured, a little bit more eager to try and get themselves a couple of positions before this race is done. Here comes Elvis Rankin around the outside here through turn number 6, and well, he's sticking it out there. He has a ton of speed coming off the corner as well, as the RAG Esports car struggling on the inside, and maybe a little bit of contact between the two as Rankin's pushed wide and forced straight into a battle with Lombardi.
There was contact between the 16 and the 91. That sends Rankin now back into a battle with Dino Lombardi, who you're on board with now on the Vodafone on board. And a little bit too wide goes the 13, trying to hold on, but he uses those track limits to his advantage, trying to get around Rankin right now in the 91. He does so. They're now single file. It's Lombardi, Rankin, Fenalosa. As you look back from the 13 of Dino Lombardi, now on board again, as here comes the 28 to the inside of Fenalosa. Contact, they're both into the tires.
Oh no, big instant on the outside of turn 1. We saw that all from the onboard of Lombardi. Penalosa diving down the insides there and just contact coming off the corner. 2 cars into 1 simply does not go. And for Penalosa and ranking, that's their race is done. Let's take a look.
Just ran out of real estate. It looked like Fenalosa was trying to come up a little bit, made contact, and that sent both of Rankin and Fenalosa into that tire barrier. So unfortunate for both of them. They were having some pretty good runs out here on the track at the Red Bull Ring, but 5 to go. Now these drivers up front got to focus on their final positions. Can Sohn catch up to Biko now at this point? As look at this scrap back here for P12.
Yeah, so the action once again happening in the mid-pack here. The very front of the field has been relatively quiet at the end of these races, I get the feeling. Hopefully there's something to shake things up there to give us a little bit of entertainment towards the very front, but the fighting towards the very back, or rather the very middle, is still exciting as Webster looking down the inside here through the final couple of corners. That's trying to gain a position over Jack Sedgwick. He slides up ahead of him through the final corner. He's ruined his momentum down the pit straight, so there might be an opportunity for Sedgwick to try and come back at him here as we look at the Vodafone onboard with Sam Keita, the Dutch driver that's in behind at the moment. Compromised lines coming through turn number 1 as the Altus Esports car gets all out of shape towards the outside of turn 1, has ruined all his speed down this back straight. Sedgwick's able to squeeze back through, and Webster looking to move to try and cover off the attempt from Sam Keita now as he looks to the outside up in towards turn number 3. And well, this can end in tears rather quickly as we've seen already, but everyone's clean through turn 3. There'll be another attempt into turn 4 though, let me tell you that.
5 to go. Sam Keita, you can see him using that wheel, possibly making a bit of an in-car adjustment in that Porsche to make it work a little better, exactly what he's looking for. And take a look at this battle. He's falling back a little bit now, but up front of him trying to get by Sedgwick, trying to get by Webster. Webster tried to go for another move, could not do it. This is opening door for Quinton Violate. The P18 driver in the number 81 is now at the end of this 4-car line.
Maybe a couple of brake bias adjustments there for Sam Keita, trying to set up for a move late on the brakes into somewhere. He might not even have to do it into maybe turn 3 or turn 4 at the moment, because he's now looking in towards the final couple of corners, maybe trying to set up a run up through these corners and then up towards turn number 1. But it looks like Cooper Webster has been able to recover quite well from that entire situation. Remember, since we are getting towards the end of the feature race now, this is where the tire life starts to become a little bit of an issue from some of these drivers. If they've used and abused them in the early portions of the race, they have a slight disadvantage on the way in towards these final couple of laps here. That is a thing that does tend to happen, and especially with the lots of medium to high speed corners here at this racetrack, the tires do tend to have maybe a bit more of a problem than they would do at some other racetracks. But that's another thing to be concerned about here for the end.
With only 4 to go, the concerns need to start coming up now as we're about to go into the final twilight portion of this race. That checkered flag is going to come out soon. If you want a move to be made, you're going to have to do it soon. Saving and waiting around is a thing of the past. Now you need to get those moves done quickly, and if you have a driver in front of you, you got to start thinking about when and if you want to try and pass them. There's no driver in front of you. You got to start thinking about how to get to the driver in front of you to be able to make a pass. These final portions of this feature race are so crucial. We've seen races made and trashed in the last couple of laps of a feature.
We indeed have. It's the most pressure-filled portions of the race here. We do have a look at the first and second place drivers here with the onboards with Julian Sohn as he tries his best to try and chase down that number 77 car of Alessandro Biko, who's currently leading at this race. He's led since basically corner number 1 here as Biko. He got himself a fantastic start from that front row, able to just about get ahead of Sohn, and they've been in these 2 positions ever since. But Sohn, he might have something in the bag here, something up his sleeve to show for the end of this race. He just needs to get maybe a 10th or 2 of a second closer, though, to be able to show anything.
Look at the focus that's coming out from Alessandro Biko, and look at the focus also from Julian Sohn as they both try and either hold the other one off in Biko's case or try and chase the other one down, as in Sonen's case is we have an incident in the back. David Williams from P3 just got knocked off the racetrack in turn 4, going down into P6 goes that number 31 for Coanda.
He didn't get knocked off. It was just a solo car late, well, a little bit too late on the brakes, but maybe missed his braking marker somewhat, and then he's gone off. This is a separate replay, though. This is with the number 69 car of Miranda Sarica, who had a big issue there. My word, bit of contact with the car on his inside. That's the number 53 car of Ayanchan Guven there. Yeah, the incident you were talking about there, Josh, with David Williams, just outbroke himself, had a huge lockup with the right front, and just got sent off the circuit. I'm not sure what that was about.
Well, that gives Bixrud now a top 3 spot. That puts Lockwood to P4 and Guven up to P5, moving Williams down into P6. Now, it is a good bit of a gap, about 3.5 seconds back to P7 of Gianni Vecchio. So Williams is good where he is now, and he still is within striking distance of Ayanchan Guven, who he can pass in front of him in that number 53. But here's the battle for the lead. It's condensing down a little bit, but you can see on the straightaways, Connery Biko can just pull away. Soinen's going to have to get creative if he can make this pass work, but with 2 to go, running out of time, and Biko has speed at the front of the field in that clean air.
Yeah, he does, and well, if the gap is sort of maintained about where it is right now, then the most comfortable seat in the house is in the race lead, at least comparatively speaking, in this front of the field battle. So with, well, 1.5 laps to go at this point, Alessandro Biko might be on for a feature race win here at the Red Bull Ring. Julian Sohn, of course, looking for his first feature race win as well here. Of course, he got himself up into a good position at Barcelona into 2nd place, and but he lost the position down into 3rd at the end of that event. So Julian Sohn is still on for a season best finish here. It's just a case of whether or not season's best also means first win.
And they're coming to the white flag lap this time by Connery. Top of your screen, battle for the lead. Bottom of your screen, battle for P9. That battle for P9 includes Josh Thompson, Bobby Zelensky, and Alexander Walters. Battle for the lead as Alessandro Biko and Julian Sohn as they race into turn 3. This is going to be some of the last opportunities that Sohn has to get by Biko. This corner and turn 4, really the best opportunity Sohn has. Tries to dive it in, can't have enough. Connery, he's going to stay in P2. Last opportunity to take the lead is coming up here.
Looks like he's lost more time than he actually gained by doing that, so the move isn't going to be available heading down into the next braking zone. So Biko has 1 foot on the top step of the podium now. He just needs to get the whole way around, and he should be good to the end of this one. You can see the gap has indeed been maintained between the two of them, about half a second between Biko and Sohn. So unless Sohn can pull off something special here through the last, well, 1/3 of this lap, then it's for sure going to be Biko's day, and he'll be able to pick up the first feature race win of the season for the number 77 car. There's the confirmation, of course. We are on the final lap here, heading in towards the final couple of corners. Just 2 more corners to go for Alessandro Biko, and he will be crowned a winner, a feature race winner in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. Alessandro Biko drive to the line. He wins here at the Red Bull Ring.
And you can see the celebration from in that sim rig. What a win for him. What a win for Williams Esports. Battles coming to the line. Vecchio finishes P7. Zelensky's going to hold on to a top 10. Walters in P11. Berryman, Lombardi, Sedgwick, and Webster the top 15. All of the battles coming to the end there, Connery. We had some exciting moments throughout that feature, but at the end of the day, Alessandro Biko, take a bow. What a win.
Fantastic stuff from the driver of the number 77 car. It's our 3rd different feature race winner in 3 races. Hopefully that trend continues to give us a little bit of excitement through the second half of the season. There's the unofficial race results from the feature events. Alessandro Biko, P1. Julian Sohn with a best finish so far in the season. He's up into P2 with Oscar Bitskrud. He's also done very well to get onto the final step of the podium for the Contender Junior team. Brian Lockwood in P4 with Ayan Shenguven in P5. That was your winner from the sprint race. David Williams in P6 despite issues. Gianni Vecchio was able to recover up into a P7 after a little bit of a sketchy day from the driver of the 70. Moreno Streeter in P8 with Josh Thompson P9. Bobby Zelensky rounds out the top 10, and of course his focus heads towards the iRacing NASCAR Coke Series in a couple of days' time on the Tuesday, of course, to see whether he can get himself a decent prize there. As Alexander Volters in P11, Peter Berryman in P12 with Dino Lombardi in P13, Jack Sedgwick in 14th with Webster in 15th, Keatit, Violate, Anderson, Gardner, and Kimachev will round out the top 20 in the finishing order. And then those that finished in the sort of rear third of the field: Goddard, Sipler, Carneiro, Rankin, Fenolusa, Christiansen, Caruso, Nesov, Laubish, Kazubon down into P30 here today. And then, of course, those drivers that did take retirements in this event. Kane Halliburton, second retirement in a row for Kane, unfortunately, here in this one. Grabowski and Laurent Benso will be P22 and P33, respectively, in this one. And, well, Josh, it seemed like the main things that we were talking about during the course of that race happened basically from P10 and back. Let's start this Bose post-race show. And, well, Josh, it's, well, it was a bit more of a calm affair at the very front as you're standing by with one of our drivers here. But again, just take it away.
Alessandro Bico, what a win for you and Williams Esports. You came into this feature race an average start of 4th in the feature with an average finish of 5th. How does this win feel, especially coming at the halfway point of the season?
Yeah, it's the first win, so it's very, very happy for me. And yeah, I want to say thank you to my team for the work. And yeah, the race was very, very hard because the pressure is very high, and yeah, the constant for the lap was good, and yeah, I'm happy.
With that start after the reverse grid, you finished 7th in the sprint race. You ended up starting P2 in the feature. You made that move early. You got the lead out of turn number 1. How much were you watching your mirror and watching Julian Sohn in behind you to keep him behind and keep that lead? Because it looked like he was catching at certain points and then lagging back, catching and lagging back. Was that kind of how you felt in the car?
Yeah, I mean, take the position in the start was very, very important, and I did. So yeah, was good. And yeah, I managed the first position, and yeah, good.
Well, we move on in the calendar. Road Atlanta in 1 week's time. Can you keep the winning ways up and get 2 in a row in the feature at Road Atlanta?
Yeah, I love the track. So yeah, I hope that's it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Alessandro. Once again, congratulations on your win here in the feature.
Thank you.
Well, we move on to Julian Sohn, who finished P2 in the feature. Julian, first of all, thank you for joining us here. And how was that race from your perspective? Looked like a tough one there, getting the pole in the feature race and then unfortunately dropping a P2 and staying there throughout the rest of the laps.
Yeah, it was a very good race. I'm very satisfied with this. Very strong point in the bag again. Yeah, I started from pole in the feature, which was good. My start was not so good, so I've been safe at the start with Alessandro. Yeah, then after it was just about trying to stick to P2 and trying to get a gap with the other guys behind.
Road Atlanta in 1 week's time. Where's the confidence level for you in R8G as we go over halfway portion of the calendar and go into round 4?
I think it's good, to be honest. We had quite good pace last season there, so I think we should try to keep the momentum going. And if we can keep doing podiums and top 5, it's very good. So yeah.
Thank you for joining us here in the Bose post-race show, Julian. Once again, congratulations on your 2nd place.
Thank you.
We move over to Oscar Bixrud, your 3rd place finisher on the bottom step of the podium. Oscar, looked like a bit of a tough race from your perspective. How'd you feel in the car? You were fortunately able to gain 3 spots from where you started, but definitely did not look easy. You had to fight for them.
Yeah, we had a great race today. I had a good qualified P5, and then we're able to gain a couple of positions in the start. So I came P3 in the sprint, and then yeah, we're lucky in the feature as well.
Road Atlanta, Long Beach, and the Nürburgring coming up in the final 3 rounds of the championship. Can you stay in the top of the point standings? Can you stay in the top of each of the leaderboards in both the sprints and the features and keep racking up those points and be a competitor in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup?
Well, I hope so. That's what I'm working for. So try to work hard for the next 3 rounds, I think. So yeah, trying to get the same results there as we did here.
Well, thanks for joining us in the Bose post-race show. Oscar, once again, congratulations on that podium.
Yeah, thanks.
Connery, what a way to finish out the night from the Red Bull Ring. We saw some exciting action in both the sprint and the feature, and it's only going to continue where we go in 1 week's time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, we head to round number 4 at Road Atlanta, exactly a week's time here on the 16th of October. We certainly really hope that you're able to join us for that one, for the 9 laps of the sprint and the 18 laps of the feature event as we head into the first race of the second half of the season. Time flies when you're having fun here in the Porsche Esports Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. Let's have a little bit of a look at the points heading into that particular round. We've had, of course, the first half of the season over and done with. We can see that Gianni Vecchio maintains the race lead here, coming out of the Red Bull Ring, with David Williams in second, with Moreno Sricha in third. But the more important positions, you would argue, are those around P15, because we've got Quentin Violate in that 15th spot right now. That is the last position where you'll be able to, well, if you finish there at the end of the season, you'll be able to book your ticket in towards the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. That's the important cut line. Sam Keita narrowly outside that at the moment. Josh Thompson a little bit more outside that, but the points are still so close there, Josh, for that final qualification spot.
A lot of drivers shuffling around at the end of this race from the Red Bull Ring, but take a look at those drivers, top 5. I'd even go as far as say top 10. They're still looking for consistency. You cannot relax yet, as we are just halfway done with the season for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. 3 good rounds at the beginning, okay, but 3 good rounds at the end will solidify their spot in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
Yeah, so we are very quickly drawing this season to a close, of course. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, not only on the iRacing broadcast platforms, but, of course, on the Porsche ones as well. We've seen a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion going on, and hopefully you're able to join us for the next round at Road Atlanta, which will be a fantastic affair. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you same place, same time next week as we go stateside.